Your grandparents ate breakfast as a whole family, spending less than 10 cents on everyone. While today, a single breakfast can easily cost nearly $15 per person. And back then, that was enough to keep you full for half the day. While today, the feeling of hunger comes back within an hour. So what changed? And who profited from it? Because these breakfasts didn't just disappear. They weren't forgotten by accident. At some point, people were convinced that simple food meant being poor, that real care came in a brightly colored box, and that breakfast had to be fast, sweet, and convenient. Companies spent millions of dollars to make people stop eating what their grandparents once ate. And it worked. Within a single generation, the food that had fed families for decades simply vanished from kitchens. But here's the strange part. Many of those meals were not only cheaper, they kept people full longer, helped prevent overeating throughout the day, and were made from simple ingredients you could understand without reading a label. And almost no one remembers how to make them anymore. Let's fix that. Let's bring them back. These are 12 forgotten breakfasts that fed American families in the 1940s and 1950s, long before packaged food took over the morning table. Meals so simple that many people today would barely recognize them. And chances are, you've tasted something like this at least once, without even realizing it. Some of them may surprise you. Some might not sound appealing at all. But every single one of them tells a story about how people used to eat and how much has changed since then. Number 12, milk toast. It doesn't look like much, but for decades, this was one of the most reliable breakfasts in American homes. A slice of toast in a bowl of warm milk. Simple ingredients, nothing extra. In the 1950s, milk was often delivered straight to the door, fresh and natural, and bread was baked or bought daily. Even a day or two later, it didn't spoil the way it does today, because it was made with simple, real ingredients. Meals like this came together from what people already had. It cost almost nothing, and it worked. Warm, soft, easy to finish even when you didn't feel like eating much, and steady enough to carry you through the morning. When a child wasn't feeling well, this is what they were given. When money was tight, this is what made sure the day didn't start on an empty stomach. No long ingredient lists, no hidden additives, just milk, just bread. Today, it's almost completely gone, replaced by breakfasts that promise more, but often come with far more than anyone really needs. Number 11, coffee and bread. This breakfast wasn't just for adults. It was served to everyone, including children. A bowl of bread broken into pieces, with hot coffee poured right over it. Not on the side, not in a cup, in the same bowl. Some mornings, there was a little milk, sometimes a pinch of sugar, and sometimes nothing else at all. It sounds strange today, but in the 1950s, This was a normal way to start the day in many homes, especially in colder regions, where mornings were early, and breakfast had to be quick and practical. For adults, it meant coffee and food at the same time. For children, it was often diluted, just enough to soften the taste, but still enough to give them energy before school. It wasn't meant to be impressive. It was simply part of everyday life. Today, both bread and coffee are still everywhere, but no one puts them together in the same bowl anymore, and certainly doesn't serve it to children before school. Number 10. Fried bread dough. This might look familiar, because in many ways, it was an early version of what we now call a donut. But back then, it wasn't a dessert. It was something much simpler. When bread was made at home, there was always a little dough left in the bowl. Not enough for a full loaf, but too much to ignore. A small piece would be torn off, flattened by hand, and dropped into a pan of hot fat. Within seconds, it would puff up, golden on the outside, soft and airy inside. The smell filled the kitchen. Children would gather nearby, watching it rise, waiting for it to be ready. Sometimes it was sprinkled with sugar, sometimes eaten plain, still too hot to hold. It wasn't designed to be a treat. It was just what happened when nothing was wasted, and something small turned into something memorable. Number 9. Water gravy. This wasn't a recipe. It was what people made when there was almost nothing left. No milk, no meat, just a pan, a little bit of fat, flour, and water. The flour would be browned slowly until it developed a deep, nutty flavor. Then water was added, and everything came together into a thin, simple gravy. Poured over bread or biscuits, it became breakfast. This wasn't about balanced nutrition. It was about getting through the day. Enough to start the morning, enough to keep going. In parts of Appalachia and the rural South, this meal quietly carried families through hard times. It required almost nothing, and still gave something back. Today, it's almost impossible to find. Not because it didn't work, but because most people would never think to make it. Number 8. The onion sandwich. Imagine opening your lunch or sitting down before school, and this is what's on your plate. 2 slices of bread, a thick slice of raw onion, a little salt, and nothing else. No meat, no cheese, no spread, just onion. For many children in the early and mid-20th century, this wasn't unusual. It was normal. Onions were cheap, easy to store, and always available. And when there wasn't much else, this is what went between the bread. It was sharp, strong, and impossible to ignore. Some kids ate it without thinking. Others remember it very differently. The smell, the reactions from classmates, the quiet feeling of being different. Today, it sounds almost unthinkable. But for a lot of families, it was just another morning. Number 7. Egg in a hole. You've probably seen this before. Maybe even tried it without realizing how far back it goes. A slice of bread with the center cut out and an egg cooked right inside it. Simple, fast, but also surprisingly clever. Because somehow, children who didn't like eggs would eat them this way. And those who got tired of plain toast suddenly had something different on their plate. The bread would soak up the yolk, the edges would turn crisp, and the whole thing felt like something new. Even the piece cut out from the center was fried on the side and used for dipping. And for the pickiest eaters, there was another version. An egg would be beaten with a little sugar, a whole slice of bread dipped into it, and then fried until soft and golden, warm, slightly sweet, almost like a simple homemade dessert. And that version was almost impossible for a child to refuse. Number 6, cornmeal mush. By morning, it didn't look like porridge anymore. It had set overnight, turning firm enough to hold its shape. It had been cooked the evening before, cornmeal stirred into boiling water, slowly thickened, and left to cool. By the next day, it could be cut into slices. Thick pieces placed onto a hot pan. The outside would turn crisp and golden, while the inside stayed dense, filling, and steady. No extra ingredients, no decoration, just something simple that carried you through the morning. Some added syrup, if they had it. Most didn't, and still, it was enough.
They thought it would end by morning. Just another protest. Just more noise in the streets. But the crowd didn't leave. It grew. Louder. Angrier. Then everything changed. The gates were breached. People flooded inside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. Within minutes, 52 Americans were trapped. No plan. No escape. No idea what would happen next. Was this just chaos? Or something much bigger? It didn't look like a crisis at first. No weapons, no warning, just a crowd gathering outside. Officials watched, waited, assumed it would pass, but it didn't. The doors were forced open. The embassy was taken, and suddenly, 52 Americans were no longer safe. They were hostages. The world was watching, but no one could stop it. Could this have been prevented? Or was it already too late?
Number 5, molasses and bread. This is one of those breakfasts you don't forget after the first bite. A thick, dark syrup poured slowly over plain bread. No bright colors, no familiar sweetness, just something deep, almost smoky, with a taste that doesn't try to please you right away. It builds, slowly, and then stays. For some people, it became a favorite. For others, it was something they had to learn to like. Because this wasn't the kind of sweet you get used to as a child today. It was heavier, sharper, less about comfort and more about character. And that's exactly why the people who remember it clearly. Number 4, dandelion greens. On some mornings, when options were almost gone, children were sent outside, not to play, not to buy something from a store, to gather weeds, hands in the grass, pulling up dandelions one by one. The same plant most people today simply see as a weed. Back then, it came back into the kitchen, washed, sorted, and soaked in cold water to pull out the bitterness. Again and again, until the taste softened. Then cooked, sometimes with eggs, sometimes in a hot pan with a little fat, turning something wild into something that could be eaten. It wasn't a recipe people talked about. It was just something that happened when there was nothing else to choose from. Today, the same dandelion greens can be found in supermarkets, carefully packaged, sold as a healthy salad, sometimes priced higher than arugula or other leafy greens. The same plant, once picked from the ground by hand, now presented as something refined. Number 3, SOS. At first glance, it looks like a normal breakfast. Toast, covered in a thick, creamy sauce. Warm, smooth, nothing unusual, until you hear the name. SOS, short for Stå on a shingle. That's what soldiers called it. And once you taste it, you start to understand why. Under that creamy layer, small pieces of dried beef, salty, intense, with a smell that hits you first, before the first bite. The sauce is heavy, almost too rich, and the meat cuts through it with a sharp, lingering flavor. It's not subtle. It's not gentle. It stays with you. Long after you're done eating, served in military kitchens, mess halls, it eventually made its way into homes. Some people grew up on it. Some avoided it completely. But almost everyone who tried it remembers exactly what it tasted like. Number 2, lard sandwich. Before the workday even began, he was already awake. Boots by the door, hands rough, still dark from yesterday's work. On the table, a piece of bread and a jar of lard. No hesitation. A thick layer spread across the surface, softening slightly as it touched the bread. A pinch of salt. That was it. Not a recipe. Not something to think about. Just something that worked. Heavy, dense. The kind of food that stayed with you when the day ahead was long. People didn't talk about protein or fat or diets. But today, something like this would probably be called keto. Back then, it was just breakfast before hard work. Number 1, oatmeal. This was the one breakfast that almost anyone could eat. Children who hadn't learned to chew yet, elderly people who struggled with solid food, those recovering from illness, when everything else felt too heavy. Soft, warm, easy to swallow. And in many homes, it showed up again and again. The same pot, the same slow stir. Sometimes just oats and water. Sometimes with milk, maybe a little butter, if there was any. Simple, repetitive, almost unavoidable. And yet, it could become almost anything. Sweet or salty. With fruit, with jam. Thick, thin, blended, turned into something completely different. People kept changing it, but never really replaced it. And today, the same oatmeal is sold as a superfood. Packaged, branded, reinvented. What used to be the simplest thing on the table now feels like something entirely new. And for a long time, breakfasts stayed like this. Simple, repetitive, built around what was already at home, But over time, things began to change. Not in the kitchen, but outside of it. A new idea appeared. That breakfast shouldn't require effort, shouldn't require attention, or even thought at all. Just open a box, pour it into a bowl, add milk, eat, and move on with your day. Bright packaging, crisp textures, designed to feel right from the very first bite. Corn flakes and everything that followed. Sweet cereals, instant breakfasts, packaged bars, food that fits perfectly into a routine, but doesn't always stay with you for long. Because somewhere along the way, the focus quietly shifted from nourishment to convenience. So now I'm curious, which of these breakfasts have you actually tried? Did your parents or grandparents ever make something like this? What do you remember from your childhood? And which one surprised you the most? Or maybe even made you curious to try it? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.